All right, hello, Tyler Bryden here. I hope everything is going well. Recording live from India and excited to be here. Also excited to go home to Canada soon. So you'll see me back in the normal sort of recording area, and I got some new stuff coming here to make that even better. Appreciate you sticking along with the journey. It was a huge day yesterday in technology, and for that reason, I'm jumping on this. I had to get it done. And that was OpenAI releasing ChatGPT and Whisper models through APIs. I'm going to focus specifically on ChatGPT, but I'm going to talk about both. And we can see TechCrunch always leading in the news and tech. Obviously, just huge ramifications from this from a business perspective. Obviously, anyone who's in tech paying attention to this, people who are not even in tech are being impacted by this, have seen the rise of ChatGPT, and whether that's like actual business applications and practices or just the memes, the controversial conversations that have happened directly through OpenAI or in Bing, all this stuff has accumulated to make this one of the most interesting sort of times, I think, in technology, and a huge focus on one company with OpenAI that is just doing, to me, like obviously some incredible work, also moving at pretty insane speeds, the quickness to deploy these into APIs after the adoption. And obviously this was part of the plan, but for them to be able to move forward and confidently and execute while still in the hype cycle of all this is super significant. And there's some interesting points about OpenAI here. One of the sort of main things that stuck out to people about this is that there's a sort of optimized version called GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is basically lowered the cost to interacting with these models pretty significantly, and then allowing you to build that sort of functionality into speak that is the sort of ChatGPT piece there. And we can see a couple of the companies that are early adopters of this, and those are big companies. So one of the things that always stuck out to me, I think it was Sam who talked about projecting like 2 billion in revenue 2024 2025, and that seemed like such a big number for people. But when you look at the adoption of this technology from massive companies and through now this API layer, those revenue projections don't actually seem as questionable as maybe people thought when they first heard. There is definitely focus on them obviously optimizing the cost, and it seems like a lot of work has gone into this, especially as adoption goes up. And there was that sort of famous Sam Altman talking about the expenses being eye-watering. And so that was one thing that was always stuck out, is how can they make this possible? But they now have an API with usage-based pricing, and it's capable for them to pull it off. And I'm not exactly sure where their price ends up and where they breaking even. Are they profitable on this? Are they eating some cost right now because of their capital? Not exactly sure, but we're going to continue to see optimizations in the cost and the performance of this. Now, lots of things around controversial interactions with ChatGPT. I think that's it's gonna continue, but then also hopefully get better. And there are some interesting works even in this release about like safeguards that OpenAI has been working on. Super interesting in that regards. And overall, I think a very exciting release for most people, especially developers who have a technology platform where they could embed this into their systems very quickly. That's something we're interested in at Speak AI, because it opens up a lot of possibilities. And there are some questions around the speed of this, the responsibility of this, but in the end, OpenAI is, like I said, has a pressure to turn profit after a big investment from Microsoft and other investors who are in on the business. So you can visit this actual here today. I have all the links. As always, I got too many links, but they'll be in the YouTube video for you to check out. And you can see it is in beta, but that there's a pretty good both introduction and guide to, I think, philosophically understanding the platform and then technically implementing it into the system there. And you can see how you actually send queries, how you get responses back. And then one of the big parts that's unique with, I guess, ChatGPT function is obviously the remaining context that is part of that conversation. And right now in Speak AI, we have a single one-off prompts where you can say, hey, give me the action items from this, or give me pain points from this call. And then if you want to iterate, that function isn't necessarily there with the context that you had. So that's the shift that this is allowing, that is super powerful and super meaningful for developers and businesses and people who are looking to embed this into their technology. Really fascinating time. I think we're going to start to see basically this technology just perpetrate everything that we're doing, and almost any experience, any technology experience that we have will have some layer of this. And Most likely it's going to be OpenAI, but there's some great companies, Cohere, AI 21 Lab. Like there's other companies who are doing this technology. And I think as this becomes so crucial, more and more companies will build the capacity to have their own large language models. Hugging Face is a great example of like constantly pushing sort of models into more open source interactable layers. I think people will try to differentiate, try to have more sort of fine-tuned models for their system, but OpenAI is also allowing that. Definitely quite a competition in a way that's taking place here that are going to be continually to follow and is going to be impacting us all. So as always, again, ton of links that you can check out. And it's interesting to see like also different people from different sort of areas of focus or use cases or industry having like different focuses on what this release means. And so overall, lots of people happy about this 90% cost reduction. And then they've got a couple examples here. So this is OpenAI's blog itself, introducing the APIs, and share a couple of examples of how this used. Snap, Quizlet, Instacart, Shop, all of this is linked, and then even Speak, which makes me sad because it's basically the same name as our company, but specifically for language learning and is a super popular application, and some great little pockets of information from across all of this. And then I'll touch on just I think the last part of this, which is I think super important and meaningful, which is Whisper, the speech to text model, and obviously you spend a lot of time in speech to text, which is open source, is now available through API. It's 0.006 per minute, which is pretty competitive compared to other systems. Now, there are some really interesting sort of limitations here, including like 25 megabyte files. Some of the formatting of the data that comes back is not ideal. Like it's very simplistic compared to some of the more mature systems like Microsoft and Amazon and Google Transcribe. And then there's DeepGram and some of these other systems that really build out nuanced speech recognition systems that give you outputs with speakers identified and timestamps and all this great stuff. And there's also modifications on that in the open source sort of iterations of it through Hugging Face. You can find those if you're interested, but the default one is relatively simple. I'm guessing that's going to change. Also does not just enable transcription, it enables translations here as well too. Ton of links on this. We've got some nice conversations directly from OpenAI themselves, and then I got a couple threads from people who are part of the OpenAI teams or just sort of commentators on technology, and super, super interesting to read and just see the overall sort of response to what to me is a pretty big day in technology that will actually impact us. Here's that speech to text Whisper API as well too. So nice and clean, shows you how you can use it, and already supporting a pretty significant amount of languages. So as they improve the transcription and translation, and as well as give them more industry standard formatted of speech recognition, we'll see this adopted as well too. And some interesting questions about how this works when they're running their API layer. They're embedded in Microsoft, but then they're also in a way, are they competing against Microsoft? These are all super interesting questions. Lots of people thinking about this, talking about this, and just again, an exciting time. So I had to jump on here. I felt the need to create a video. I hope I gave a couple insights for you along the way, and I hope you enjoyed. And I look forward to creating more videos. Thank you so much for checking this out. Have a wonderful rest of your day.